My dear friends, there is a kind of silence that is louder than noise, a kind of loneliness that is heavier than a crowd, and a kind of strength that is born only inside a woman who learns to live without the man she once depended on. Today, I want to talk about that woman. A woman who wakes up every morning with no one asking, "Are you okay?" A woman who goes to sleep with no shoulder to lean on. A woman who stands in the battlefield of life, alone but undefeated. You see, life doesn't always give us what we want. Sometimes the person we thought would walk with us forever walks away in the middle of the journey. Sometimes the man who promised to protect her heart is the one who leaves it shattered. But listen carefully. A woman's greatest power is not in being loved by a man. Her greatest power is in discovering who she truly is when she must walk alone. My friends, a woman in solitude is not a weak woman. She is a woman the universe is sculpting, shaping, polishing, strengthening. When no one is there to support her, she learns to stand. When no one is there to encourage her, she learns to cheer for herself. When no one wipes her tears, she learns to turn her tears into wisdom. And when the world says, "You can't survive without a man," she smiles and replies, "Watch me." Oh dear friends, sometimes solitude is not a punishment, it is a divine invitation. An invitation to meet yourself, an invitation to rise, an invitation to build a life so complete that even loneliness becomes afraid to stay. Let me tell you something powerful. A woman who learns to live alone doesn't become harder, she becomes deeper. She becomes wiser, she becomes someone who no longer begs for love, but chooses love with dignity. And that, my dear friends, is the moment she transforms. The day she realizes, "I was never alone, I had God, I had strength, and I had myself." That is the day she truly becomes unstoppable. So to every woman listening, if you are going through solitude, if you feel abandoned, if you feel forgotten, remember, your solitude is not breaking you, it is making you. Let the world see the fire in your silence. Let the world see the courage in your calmness. Let the world see the woman who walks alone but walks like a whole army. Because when a woman rises from loneliness, she becomes a force that even destiny bows down to. So stand tall, breathe deeply, walk fearlessly. You are not empty, you are evolving. You are not abandoned, you are becoming extraordinary. And one day, when life brings the right person, he will find not a broken woman, but a woman who rebuilt herself stronger than ever. This, my dear friends, is the power of a woman's solitude. Not a weakness, but her rebirth. When people hear the word solitude, they immediately imagine sadness, emptiness, and suffering. But the truth, my dear friend, is very different. Solitude is life's secret classroom, where the greatest lessons are taught silently. It is not a jail where a woman is locked. It is a workshop where she is rebuilt, refined, strengthened, and awakened. Think for a moment about a seed. When a seed is placed into the soil, it is covered in darkness. It is alone. No sunlight reaches it. No one sees it. From the outside, it may look like the seed has been buried, forgotten, or hidden. But what is actually happening? Inside that very darkness, transformation begins. The seed breaks open, new life pushes through, roots form, strength develops. Growth starts in silence. A seed must go through solitude in the soil to bloom on the surface. If it never experienced that quiet darkness, it would never become a tree. This is exactly what happens in a woman's heart. When she enters a phase of solitude, maybe after heartbreak, maybe after betrayal, maybe when a man who promised everything walks away, she feels like that seed in the soil, lost, alone, buried in darkness. But she doesn't realize that life is not punishing her. Life is preparing her. The universe has placed her in a spiritual soil so she can grow in ways she couldn't grow before. Every strong woman you see today has a chapter of solitude behind her strength. Every confident woman has cried silently at night. Every fearless woman has stood alone at some point. Every wise woman has walked through a valley of loneliness where she found herself again. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Imagine a woman who always depended on her partner for emotional support. If something went wrong, she would call him. If she felt sad, she would lean on him. If she felt confused, she waited for him to guide her. One day, suddenly, he walks away. At first, the world collapses for her. She feels lost because the person she always turned to is no longer there. Now what happens? She is forced to sit with her thoughts. She is forced to understand her feelings. She is forced to make decisions. She is forced to rely on herself. Slowly, she starts discovering hidden strengths. The first time she solves a problem on her own, she realizes she is not as weak as she thought. The first night she cries, but still wakes up and gets through her day, she realizes she is more resilient than she believed. The first time she smiles again, without waiting for someone to make her smile, she realizes her happiness is in her own hands. This is transformation. This is evolution. This is the silent magic of solitude. Another example, think of a mobile phone. When the battery is low, you plug it into the charger. But while charging, you stop using it. Why? Because it needs that silent, disconnected moment to regain full power. If you keep using it while charging, it won't charge properly. A woman's solitude is exactly like that charging time. She disconnects from the world, from noise, from drama, from expectations, not because she is broken, but because she is recharging. She is building emotional, spiritual, and mental energy, and when she comes back, she isn't the same. She returns stronger, clearer, brighter, and more stable. Solitude teaches a woman things that no relationship, no friend, no partner can teach her. It teaches her to understand her own voice. It teaches her to protect her peace. It teaches her the difference between needing someone and choosing someone. It teaches her that being alone and being lonely are not the same. You can be alone and still feel peaceful, and you can be surrounded by people yet feel completely lonely. And that is why solitude is not punishment. Punishment breaks you. Transformation rebuilds you. Punishment weakens you. Transformation strengthens you. Punishment isolates you. Transformation elevates you. When life gives a woman solitude, it is giving her an opportunity to meet the strongest version of herself. It is gifting her a moment to rewrite her story. It is giving her space to breathe, to heal, to rediscover herself, to rise. One day, the same woman who cried in loneliness will look back and say, "That phase didn't destroy me. It created me." She will thank life for the silence that taught her to listen to her own heart. She will thank the darkness that taught her to find her own light. She will thank the empty space that gave her the room to grow into someone she never knew she could become. So, Remember this truth deeply: solitude is not the end of a woman, it is the beginning of her transformation. When she walks through solitude with patience and courage, she doesn't just survive, she blooms. These words aren't just a motivational line. They reflect a reality that thousands of women live every day. Strength doesn't always come from being supported by someone. Sometimes the deepest, most unshakable strength comes when a woman realizes she must stand on her own feet. Not because she wanted to, but because life left her with no other choice. Think about how a bird teaches its baby to fly. The mother bird feeds it, protects it, keeps it warm. But one day, she nudges the baby out of the nest. At that moment, the baby bird feels terrified. It feels like it's falling. It doesn't understand why it has been pushed. But that push, the most frightening moment of its life, becomes the beginning of its strength. In that fall, the baby bird discovers its wings. It learns to fly. In the same way, when a woman is left alone, when the emotional support she relied on disappears, when the man she trusted steps back, when friends she leaned on are no longer around, she feels like she is falling. She feels afraid. She feels abandoned. But that moment becomes her push, and soon she begins to discover her own wings. Many women don't realize how strong they are until they stand alone in a situation they never expected to face. Let's take a simple example from daily life. Imagine a woman who has always been emotionally dependent on her partner. If she is upset, she calls him. If she is confused, she asks him. If she is scared, she seeks comfort from him. She has built her emotional world around him. But one day, something happens. A breakup, a distance, a misunderstanding, or simply life, and suddenly he is no longer there. At first, she breaks. Her world seems to collapse. She panics because the person she always turned to is gone. But slowly something magical starts happening. One day, she faces a problem and no one is there to solve it for her. She hesitates, but she tries, and she solves it. One evening, she feels lonely, but she still gets through it. One moment she cries, but she wipes her own tears and continues her day. And with every small victory, she becomes a little stronger. Not dramatically, not loudly, but silently, steadily, beautifully. Strength isn't built in one day. It is built in the hidden everyday moments when a woman chooses to stand instead of collapsing. She learns to trust her own decisions. She learns to comfort herself. She learns to manage her emotions. She learns to be her own support system. That is real strength. Here's another daily life example. Think about a tree standing alone in an open field. It has no other trees around it to shield it from wind, rain, storms, or heat. When the storm comes, it shakes violently. But because there is no support, its roots go deeper into the earth. It becomes so deeply grounded that no storm can uproot it. Meanwhile, trees growing in clusters have shallow roots because they depend on each other for support. A woman who learns to stand alone becomes like that strong tree. Her emotional roots go deep. She becomes grounded, stable, mature, and self-aware. Standing alone teaches a woman something priceless. She is enough. She doesn't need someone to validate her. She doesn't need someone to complete her. She doesn't need someone to tell her she can do it. She becomes her own strength. Another powerful example is from everyday responsibilities. Imagine a woman who used to depend on her partner for financial stability. She would often think, he'll handle it. But when she finds herself alone, whether temporarily or permanently, she learns to handle her own finances. She learns budgeting, planning, saving, and managing. At first, she might feel overwhelmed, but slowly, she becomes confident. She realizes, I can do this. I don't have to depend on anyone. That realization, that moment is life changing for a woman. Standing alone does not make her cold, it makes her courageous. It doesn't make her emotionless, it makes her emotionally strong. It doesn't harden her heart, it strengthens her soul. Some women discover their strength when raising children alone. Some discover it when they move to a new place. Some discover it after heartbreak. Some discover it when people they trusted walk away. And some discover it in silence. In those quiet nights when they finally decide not to cry anymore. Because here's the truth, a woman standing alone is not a woman who lost someone. She is a woman who found herself. She learns to set boundaries. She learns to say no. She learns to love herself. She learns to enjoy her own company. She learns that solitude is not scary, it is empowering. And people around her begin to notice. They sense her confidence. They admire her independence. They respect her resilience. They become inspired by her transformation. The woman who once doubted herself begins to radiate a quiet, fearless energy. She becomes someone who cannot be controlled, manipulated, or broken easily. Because once a woman learns to stand alone, she stops fearing loneliness. She stops begging for affection. She stops tolerating disrespect. She stops depending on someone else to define her value. Her strength becomes her armor. Her independence becomes her power. Her self-respect becomes her identity. And that, my dear friend, is why a woman becomes stronger when she learns to stand alone. Not because she wanted to be alone, but because life gave her a moment to rise. And she accepted it with courage. She did not just survive, she evolved. This may sound surprising at first, because when a woman's heart breaks, it feels like everything is falling apart. There is confusion, pain, betrayal, and an emptiness that words can't fully describe. It feels as if life has stopped, as if the world has gone silent. But here is the secret most people never understand. Heartbreak has the power to teach a woman lessons that comfort never could. It has the power to open her eyes, awaken her soul, and deepen her understanding of life, relationships, and herself. We often think heartbreak only destroys, but for many women, heartbreak becomes the beginning of transformation, the beginning of spiritual growth, the beginning of a deeper, wiser, more awakened version of herself. Imagine a beautiful piece of clay. As long as the clay is untouched, it looks ordinary. But the moment a potter starts kneading it, pressing it, breaking its shape, reshaping it, that's when the clay starts becoming something meaningful. A mug, a vase, a lamp, a masterpiece. The clay must go through pressure, fire, shaping, and trials before it becomes something valuable. If someone sees the clay in the middle of the process, they might think it's breaking, but the potter knows it's becoming. In the same way, when a woman goes through heartbreak, she feels broken, but life, the divine creator, is reshaping her into someone wiser, stronger, clearer, and more grounded. Heartbreak pushes her into a journey she never chose but deeply needed. Let's bring this to a simple daily life example. Imagine a woman who trusted someone deeply. She gave her emotion, loyalty, time, and energy to a relationship. She believed the future was secure. She believed she was loved. But one day, she discovers the bitter truth. The person she trusted was dishonest. He lied, he cheated, he walked away. In that moment, her heart shatters. She feels like she is drowning in unanswered questions. She wonders, was I not enough? She questions her worth, her choices, her entire identity. But slowly, very slowly, something begins to change. The same heartbreak that pushed her to the floor begins lifting her up. One day, she realizes she stopped waiting for messages that never come. Another day, she notices she no longer cries over memories that once crushed her. One morning, she wakes up and realizes she wants to live for herself, not for someone who left her. She begins talking to herself with kindness. She begins rediscovering her likes, her dreams, her desires. She begins connecting with her own soul.